What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is because people get to know you, they get to see you.
Making those efficiencies to maximise service profits as well as just product profits.
When you lose the enthusiasm, that's the point to move on.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated, yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times. And only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk.
Hello listeners, welcome to ScaleUp Radio. I'm Granger Forson. You can find me at www.bizsmart-gloucestershire.co.uk or find me on LinkedIn. In this brand new episode, I'm thrilled to introduce you to an incredible, talented individual, Craig Helen, the owner of Bexmedia. Since 2007, Bexmedia has been pushing the boundaries in video production, motion graphics, and 3D animation, and today we deep dive into their remarkable journey. In our conversation, we explore how Bexmedia embraces cutting-edge technologies to visually enhance their clients' messages and engage with a wide variety of industries. Craig shares his insights on why understanding technical products is vital to effective communication in lots of different markets. Well, what's more fascinating is how Bexmedia's small but agile team have become their very own niche in the market. As a growing SME, they've faced their share of challenges and talk how they got over them. From struggling to manage a creative team due to their disorganized and enthusiastic nature, to the importance of building a network of external resources for growth. The raw honesty in this conversation is both relatable and inspiring. Plus, we'll touch on their unique approach to hiring, fostering personal connections, and offering work experience. I can't wait for you to hear the nuggets of wisdom Craig brings to the table. So let's get ready to be both entertained and enlightened. Now, let's go over and listen to Craig. So, hello, Craig Helen, and welcome to ScaleUp Radio. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, Granger. Craig Helen, as you said. I run a company called Bexmedia. We're a video production, motion graphics, and 3D animation company based just outside the middle of Gloucester in Maysmore. Wonderful day here today, and enjoying the countryside views this place gives us. It's very nice out here.
Fabulous, yes, a lovely part of the country in terms of that, very much so. So tell us a bit more in terms of the business. How big are you? How long have you been going?
Sure. We started back in, I've had to scratch my head a little bit before this one. I think we started back in 2017. We've been going for a while. We've scaled up pretty slowly over that time. But now we're currently at 5 staff, including myself. The growth journey has been really interesting, especially over the last few years, where it's kind of felt like the blue touch paper has been lit, and we're on our way. We're certainly not at the end of this, but we're definitely on our way. Small team of hopefully fairly talented individuals doing lots of interesting things with video and motion graphics and more recently 3D animation.
So video, motion graphics, 3D animation. How do you help your clients? So what are the sort of things do you do? How do you service your clients? Why do they come knocking on the door?
Well, I guess a lot of things in a fairly small box is a good way to categorize us. Broadly technologically and creative driven. So we'll embrace new video technologies fairly quickly. If we see an opportunity to enhance our clients' message visually through the work that we do, and we see a way using a new piece of technology, we'll generally take that on, sometimes riskily, for a company of our size. We'll embrace that, and that gives us a little bit of an edge. It also makes it somewhat chaotic sometimes. Being honest, because staying ahead of the technology and the creative output that technology can give you is absolutely the thing that's kept us going and hopefully keeps us competitive. And also it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy the process from a technological and creative perspective about taking a client's thing, whatever that thing is, really spending some time to understand that thing. And you've got to become an expert real quickly to understand that thing, distill its value into something which is a creative communication, and then work out how to best put that across in either animation or video, or a mixture of both, of course. But that's really what makes me tick, and it's very fulfilling. It's hard. It's very hard to get it right. But if you've got a good idea, and you've got the right people and tools around you to help bring that to life, it can be really fulfilling, and that's kind of what I get up out of bed every day to do.
I love that expression, creative communication. That's a fascinating set of words in terms of that. And that's what you're doing. You're distilling somebody's need, one of your clients' need, and creating it into video or motion or 3D, as we talked about in terms of doing that. So who are your clients? Who comes knocking on the door? What type of industry?
All sorts. That's what makes the job interesting as well, is because we're fairly technical as a bunch, and there was a job that I did way back when I was just a jobbing camera person for a company. I was working for a marketing agency that wanted a camera person on the ground to capture something which was technologically interesting, and we were walking around, and it sort of struck me whilst we were doing this that the communications manager at the company was great, and I got on really well with him, and I really liked the product. It was really interesting as a thing, a technical thing. And I started asking all these questions. I know I've got an engineering background to a certain degree, and so what are the tolerances? How are the flow rates mixing there? All this sort of stuff. And for their market, that was really important because they were an OEM and they needed to show that sort of value. And then it sort of occurred to me that the people I was working for didn't get it, didn't understand how this stuff worked, and therefore, how the heck were you going to communicate it? It doesn't matter how many nice bells and whistles you put on it, which is obviously part of our role as well, absolutely. But if you don't get the thing that's in front of your camera lens, then or it takes too long to get to that point where you do understand it, then you're either inefficient or ineffectual, and so that's really kind of where the business sort of, from my perspective, just me, I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And then since then, growing creatively as well, and now we're starting to sort of expand that technical remit out into slightly more consumer products as well, and experience very different markets. And I think that's probably maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, that's really where it started broadening out a bit. And I think it's still got this technical competency as a core, but starting to understand the different types of markets and getting experience in them, and that's really, really great as well. and how you can kind of pull from one market your experience and apply it in a different way, that knowledge, to a completely different sector, but it add value. And I love it. I love that. So seeing an idea over here and placing that same idea, tweaking it and making it work elsewhere, and it working. So
there must be a lot of videographers. I've met a few in over time in terms of activity. So what defines you? What makes you different? You know, you talk about maybe your niche. What's
I genuinely think we're a small team that can do a lot and do a lot fairly well. I'd hope. The niche, and so we did just mention, touch on this, I guess, but it's good to have a niche, in my opinion. Yes, we are very good at that from a technical understanding and communicating that in an interesting way. But by exposing yourself to those other industries, it allows you to experience different things, experience other professionals being involved in those different methods of communication or different markets and communication therein, and being able to pull that back the other way. And it's just, if we get too focused, and sometimes, you know, we definitely do go down this, oh yes, that's just for us, that's perfect for us, let's do that, let's just do that because that's perfect for us. Sometimes the ideas that come from other places you miss, and it's sort of a constant little battle that I personally have. It's like, let's stick with what we know, and we're very good at that. But ultimately, where does that lead from a value point of view for us and for our clients? We should be seen to be looking outside of that, and I think that's something that will hopefully maintain a good level of quality and value ongoing. But it's something we definitely have to keep an eye on.
And it's interesting you talk about, you know, you originally said you've grown slowly and you're just about to sort of ramp up, take off. I forgot the exact words you used there. Oh, get going. There we go. In terms of doing that. So you've taken a while in terms of doing that. But you've taken on people now. How do you keep that passion of taking ideas from one industry to another industry as you're growing your team? And that's a fantastic.
Yeah, I still like to meddle. I basically, if I see something, I'm a magpie. If I see something shiny, and that's great in some ways because it allows that sort of free thinking of ideas and pollination of those ideas. But from a management point of view, that's not great because it can be really disorganized. I can come across, and I'm sure some of my team would attest, although I'm very good at some things I'm not, and being really clear, and that's something I'm having to work on from a personal perspective, is how I then grow this team and manage them in a really, hopefully, a holistic way, for want of a better term, because I'm incredibly enthusiastic as a person and engaged with the subject that I'm interested in. But there are obviously the day-to-day grind of the running of an SME and the importance of those tasks. They are important, although they might not be your favorite thing, which they certainly aren't in my book, but they're important. They're not only important for the stability and the longevity of the business, but important for the staff that you're taking on as well, because they'll have different goals and trying to make sure everybody's happy, productive, and all pulling in the same direction. And that's probably, and I've never, for context, I've never really been managed. I came out of school, I started this after university. I think my previous job role was shifting wool from a large, like room-sized bin into a vacuum vent that ended up in a hopper that then made billiard tablecloth, and that was my last job. So without that sort of management experience or bit of the experience of being managed, that's something which I'm constantly having to work on and learn, because I don't really have that context. And it's definitely an area that I struggle with, but I am trying.
No, I mean, it's definitely something that you can pick up over time. It's something you can learn in terms of doing that. But it's what's refreshing in terms of what you're saying is you are actually willing to learn and do that. Yeah, it's an important aspect to learn how to manage a business for growth, because that's how businesses actually do grow, because they are actually managed for growth and they're managed in terms of their capability to do that.
And I think leaning on external resource help with that is probably one of the biggest things I've been basically learned that you can't do everything well. It's just not in your ability.
Yeah.
And so being able to build that network of people, services around you that still know kind of what your goals are, and I think that's really important when you take on any service business. Is kind of they should still know kind of what you're about and how you tick, because then they can deliver their stuff in the right way. And building that network and being able to lean on them when you get to those points where I either don't have the knowledge, or I'm feeling ineffectual, or I just need some help. And having the right people there and picking the right people that can help you with that growth has been so valuable for me. From HR to accounting to finance management to all the stuff I have zero idea about, but are super important. Getting those people and companies around you to be able to help is change. It just changes everything.
Yeah, and how you go about finding that knowledge is important, but each of us have a different ways that we would go and find that knowledge and experience that. One is networking, one is reading, one is going to events. There are lots of different ways, but the passion is then how you apply it and make that happen and have that ability to really take it through. So that's brilliant. I really love that. And that honesty in you in terms of that learning and growing. So take us back then. So yeah. Bexmedia, you've been going a number of years now, nearly sort of 15 years in it.
Yeah.
So why did it start? Where did it come about? And then maybe we'll talk about that journey.
So I'll try and give you the abridged version. So I went to university. I did product design as a degree, and I loved my product design degree. As I really enjoyed it. Engineering light, I'd put it. It certainly wasn't an MEng degree. I'm always jealous of people that have got those letters after their name. But throughout that process, I came up with a product idea. I entered into some competitions, and then won a few bits along the way, and then got entered into a scholarship program. Now that scholarship program was the first year of its program. I think their entry requirements were lower than subsequent years, and I got to go to the States off the back of that program. Spent 6 months over there with a foundation for entrepreneurship called the Kaufman Foundation, based in Kansas City. And there, we were treated to a whole host of basically entrepreneurial legends that would come and talk to us about varying subjects, although some of them were quite hard to grasp when you're talking about VC funding and all sorts of stuff like that. It's sort of a different level of we were just out of university at the time. But through that process and doing some internships, I kind of figured out that video was actually more of the thing that I maybe wanted to focus on, and was lucky enough to be involved in an internship program that led me down the path I am. But at the end of this incredible American journey, and figuring out that American dream, we came back to Gloucestershire with a rather large bump, and had to start from dot. And so but we were just, I guess it was just lucky. It wasn't really sort of looking at it critically and saying, right, I'm at the start of the video online revolution. It was just, well, I've got a laptop, I've got a good camera. No one else seems to be doing this. I'll give it a go. And that was basically it. And then I was obviously lucky. In the early days, I was lucky enough to have a business partner who decided, he split very amicably. He had a very, very good web business, that he wanted to focus on, and I took the reins of Bex, and grew it from there. But that's why the first few years it was basically it was me, and then slowly figuring out other people, slowly figuring out the industry, the techniques, the technology, the people, and that journey of those things is still continuing to this day, and we're just slowly, hopefully, getting better at it.
So you talked about a business partner, you talked about some changes that are taking place. Give us a few highlights. What's gone right? What's gone wrong?
Right and wrong. That's a good question. I think all of it's gone okay, even the wrong bits. Because if we didn't do the wrong bits, you wouldn't move. But what's gone right? I think it comes back to that core, and we have to remind ourselves of this internally, is that we constantly look for new stuff to do, new stuff to work with, embracing technology, being ahead of that, not being afraid of change in that regard, and taking the risks with that, although measured, to say no. This at this point, this feels right to try.
Yeah.
And also, a few years ago, working with a coach on that fear aspect of, well, what if I do this, something might go wrong, and everything's going to go wrong, and the world's going to shut down for me. And I think that's a fairly common mindset of a lot of small business owners. Because it's fragile. It's fragile. You look at your cash flow, and you look at your contracts that are coming up, or your projects, and you go, right, well, if this thing doesn't hit, then we're going to have a bit of a problem here, guys. But from this guy's teaching called Martin Croft, who helped me, and he really helped me. If you put yourself into that headspace of fear and possible rejection, then you're already putting yourself on the back foot. And it's part of the human condition to be scared of things, right? But work your way out.
Tigers around the corner.
Exactly. And try and work your way out of that. And I treat it like a muscle. I think of it like a muscle. Like if I spot myself doing that, it's like, oh, I've got to catch that, because it's not going to lead me to a helpful place. You still end up doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's certainly not a done thing. It's something you have to work at. But if you catch it, and you can set yourself a little bit more on an even keel, and hopefully make some better moves because of that, because you're not in that state of fear and confusion. And that's probably one of the things which has really changed things in the last 3 years, really, is not being too scared of interesting things that might be challenging, but you kind of know you should do them anyway.
Yes. I mean, that's really inspiring in terms of, you've gone through that, you've had external help, and you've developed that skill, that muscle. I love the expression in terms of doing that. It's really important as a small business owner, because there are difficult times, but there are great times as well in terms of doing that. And one is taking on staff that's successful with you. So, how have you found the right people to fit the business as it's grown?
That's interesting. Well, sometimes they find us, and it's only actually latterly, it's only our most recent staff member, Lexi, that we've kind of actively said we need someone in this to help in this role, and then it was through a personal connection that came out. We've not done the recruitment thing yet, although your personal connections and your luck in finding people can only take your growth journey so far or so quickly, and that's why we've not done that method yet. Not to say it wouldn't work at all. The other side of it is we were quite. I'm quite passionate about making sure that we're open for work experience, even as a small company. One of the guys that works here, Alex, his first work experience, I think it was when he was 14, maybe 15 with us. He's now 25, no, 24, I think. And he's been sort of, we've been in communication all the way through. His dad's been supportive of it. And it was a couple of years back that we took him on. And so that, I'm sure other business owners get this as a lot, and it's a hard judgment because it's time that's involved in it. But when you get those emails through that say, I'm a work experience potential, yes, we do now have a filtering process because you have to. We have to. Not saying everyone. We have to, because of the nature of the work that we do and the level of intensity at certain points in the work that we do. There has to be a level of, firstly, are they going to take too much out of us? But also, are they going to learn and have a good experience themselves? Because if we're working up here and they don't understand the first part of what we're doing, then they're not going to gain any value through that experience anyway. So it's kind of like, well, you'll just be sat there not understanding things, and that's not going to help you. So we have a sort of pack that we give them. So often what will happen is we'll get someone in who's enthusiastic but doesn't have quite the experience yet. So I always give the time of day and always try and send them something which is like a resource pack, some signposts, some suggestions, to then maybe in a couple of years' time, if then we see that they've done that and they're still in and still excited by it, I'm like, well, of course of course you can come in and you can have some time with us for sure. Because firstly, you've shown you've got it about you to go and do this, which is not part of your curriculum, which you're exposing yourself to tools and knowledge that just is not necessary for your life at that stage. But you're passionate, and if you and that passion for what we do can be shown very early on. And yeah, Alex is a testament to that, to showing that can work. And also, frankly, it gives you the jump on the gun. We have lots of people approach us who are just out of university, and you're looking at, and this is not everyone, but you're looking at some of these people and saying, well, your knowledge and experience is below the 16-year-old that's just asked for work experience. And we can see that because from our perspective, yes, obviously there's plenty of other learning that happens at university and it's not to be disregarded, but your knowledge and experience in the bits that we can see, like video, it's a visual thing. You can connect with it quite quickly from a talent point of view. It's because they've done it early. And they've got that passion. And when you get a great, you can just see something, a little glimmer of something in someone's work when they're 16, 17 years old, and you're like, they've got it. And it's when you see it, it's really exciting because it's like, oh, of course, come in. We can have a chat because you've got it.
Yeah, it's interesting that finding the spark in people. I going back many years, we had an outsourcing agency in India that made PowerPoint presentations, but we worked for City of London, and these were the packs that would go out to very net high worth individuals from certain banks and companies. And they were, in their interviewing process, they were looking for someone that could make a PowerPoint beautiful, and trying to define that was so hard. You can't put that in a process, but you put it into a feeling. And you just took me back to those discussions that we were having with the team that were trying to find these people. How do you find that passion through the interview process that just makes it everybody could do a PowerPoint presentation, but who can make it beautiful? It was a fantastic statement.
I mean, goodness,
it took me back.
Talent and a half making a PowerPoint beautiful.
Yeah,
goodness,
yeah. I mean, it's just a beauty, and it's really interesting. Some people have something anybody can do it, but some people have that little bit that polishes it and takes it to the next level. Yeah, fascinating.
And that little bit can be learned as well. If you we develop our our art, for want of a better term, because as I say, we started technical, and now we're pushing that creative muscle to try and understand that and deliver about that sort of value. But we weren't there a few years back. We're starting to get there now, and so. But if you really want it, you can. It's just doing it and keeping on doing it. And if you start doing it early, you're going to get there earlier than everyone else.
And you've talked a few times now about this, passion for finding the technology, trying out new technology, trying out new things. So, are you building then internal processes and systems off the back of that? How are you turning ideas into, saleable product?
And it's a battle. Systems? It's a battle because so we as we've grown slightly, you start seeing certain aspects of what we do that you're doing again and again in a certain way, and so it started from a CRM point of view, saying, well, we're having to send out the same information. There's we're always capturing leads in a weird email based way. There's spreadsheets all over the place. This isn't working. So we got a CRM. It was far too overbearing. The sort of data in versus useful information out sort of level of calculation. How much time am I spending putting stuff in to actually get a result? So we binned that one off because it was too much. And eventually we settled on a new system based on Monday.com because it's a bit more flexible. We kind of saw how that could work for us, and you could slim it right down to its bare bones. And as an SME, being nimble with that amount of time that's required to get that right. Haven't got a sales team that can work with the gargantuan sales force as a product. It just doesn't work. So figuring out the bare minimum to get the best result from that system in just in the CRM side of things taught us a lot of things about then, okay, well, we've done that for that, and that's working kind of well. Obviously, we still tinker and still add things in or take things away. We've taken a few things away recently. How else can we apply that? So then we said, right, well, let's build a bit about holidays into the same system. Okay, well, that's about staff adding in. Build that little bit of the system. Okay, and that seems to work. Okay, well, let's build a project management system. That's obviously a fairly large undertaking. What are the commonalities in how we build that? Okay, how do we give the flexibility? That's an interesting one. The flexibility within a project management system with what we do to have a process behind something, but still be able to explore things that don't fit within that process as a discrete thing. Because if you have too much of a rigid process, you can miss interesting opportunities. In my belief, yes, there are certain things which are absolute mainstay. You have a start point, you have a mid point, you hopefully have an end point. But and the trackability of the various comms and stuff like that would be associated with that project is important. But not making it too rigid, not making it too data hungry, but still giving enough of there's a bit on accountability and who's managing something. There's a bit on keeping a track of communication and costs and things like that. Those are the bare minimum stuff that we need to do. And then having the ability to actually, this project's a little bit more complex. Let's chuck a Gantt chart in there and work out where our critical path is, and all that sort of stuff. But having a system that has a baseline, but then you can shift it around a little bit. For us, that was a really interesting experience, and we're really happy that where we are. There's lots more stuff we want to do, but every time someone wants to do something like, right, God, just let's get it back to the core of what we need to do our job well without overburdening the administration of this, because otherwise it's just too much data in.
I mean, what's fascinating, what you're talking about there is you're putting a level of process thinking and control, which you'd usually find in much bigger business, even a corporate size business in terms of doing that. But you're distilling that into, a small business field, that you guys are, so, I mean, that's got to be your engineering thinking, I think,
possibly
into that,
Well, and it's not just mine, I must say. My colleague Josh is really the champion of that.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. It's having that sort of same thought process behind it, but still tailoring it back to actually what we are.
Yeah. I mean, I have run a project management department in my past, and software development, very similar to Monday.com, wasn't that particular one. But what was really interesting is the level of conversation you've just gone through in your mind and talked us through is the very same conversation we were having in groups of 20 people that were trying to put this entire we had sort of over 100 project managers sort of thing, so that's the level you've brought down to a very small essence in terms of what you're doing. That's really, really good. So a couple more questions about the business. Cash is king in any business. How do you manage cash in your business? What's the
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, we ran very frugally for a long time. I was lucky enough to have family support at the start of all of this, and that's, goodness me, so incredibly lucky to have had that. So it meant that we could kind of build up a certain amount of a reserve, which is now really, really helpful, because as your projects grow, your cash flow, obviously the up and the down of the cash flow grows, and so we're paying a bit more attention to that now. We're now working with our accountant, getting management accounts and things like that to kind of give us the heads up when we need to make these big decisions about cash and project take on, and that has been really helpful and illuminating. But if you were to get a large project in, and it's funny, I've just come out of a meeting with my financial advisor talking about this, we need a certain amount of float, because in order to grow, either you take risk capital, and that has its own thing, funding circle, etc., and that has its own thing, and costs associated and risks associated with that. That's one route, but we're just sort of lucky enough and slow enough, if I'm honest, of growth to then build up a little bit of a buffer to be able to say, no, that feels like we can do that bit there. We think we've got enough of a buffer there, looking at our cash flow forecast that we're now doing a bit more, to be able to say, no, we can confidently take a project of that size on. And you just try and make those projects a little bit bigger each year. That's all we, bit more big, bit more interesting, bit more involved. And then because that's all that drives us. It drives me, and probably drives a lot of people here. We just want to make better stuff.
Make better stuff. Brilliant. I like that phrase. Yeah, that's fantastic. So one final question in terms of the business marketing. Every business needs to market itself to find that opportunity of getting to a sales discussion. What strategies work for you, or what maybe even changed over time?
That is a good question. Because we're changing. I built the original thing based on business networking, which I'm sure lots of SMEs do, and have done it to a varying degree. I did BNI for a number of years, which is for those that Business Network International, I believe it is, and that worked for us for a while. But it's funny how the group that you run with, how much value you get from a group depending on the mix of people in the room. And I think it's interesting about that membership custodian, it's custodian of what's right as a member to a group, and how that works, and how if in my opinion, I think as long as everyone, doesn't matter what size of business you are, as long as you've kind of all got the same compass and all kind of wanting either kind of wanting to grow, or kind of wanting to stay as a lifestyle business, or one kind of wanting to be an enterprise business, if you've all kind of got that same compass, then the way that you can relate to each other understand each other's problems to be helpful from a, not even a referral perspective, but from a kind of help perspective, that all works really well. I think what goes wrong often with these sorts of groups is that mix of people somewhat diverts, and you've got someone with a different goal and aim over here to this person's goal and aim over here, and that's where the wheels might come off, and that's something which yeah, I think I've felt, but I have absolutely benefited from that experience, because to one of our earlier chats, without that exposure to all these interesting people with all these interesting fields, I wouldn't have been able to find those people and have the space for those conversations to pick up the people who I think can help us and help us on our journey, from the HR, from the accounting, from the financial, from everything and above, from our PAP testing. You know, it's all important, and it's a lot. You get, that's the one thing a lot of these networks don't sell on is the fact that you've got access to people that can help you if you need help, and also just be there and have an empathy. It's very lonely. It's very lonely, I think, at the start of an SME, especially if you haven't got critical friends or partners or whatever that can help you. It's an isolating existence at the start. So having those people that you can turn up to and go say, oh my goodness, I've had a bad week. Right, okay, what's happened? This happened, right, okay, let's unpack that a little bit. And having that space for that sort of space and empathy for those sorts of conversations helped me so much, because it took you out of that isolation. It took you out of the, I'm doing this all wrong, this is just my problem, this is just me, I'm terrible at this, to actually, oh no, wait a minute, all you guys have had the same problem. Oh, and great, I can learn from that because you've taken these steps, and hopefully I can benefit from your prior knowledge and learn from your mistakes. And then guess what? You'll probably learn from mine as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that's a powerful part of networking in terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said you moved on to other types of marketing. So what?
Well, we're making that sort of transition now a little bit, I guess. Spent a lot of time and effort and a fair amount of cash on getting our web presence up together. I'm really happy with that. Again, worked with someone that we found from networking to help with that. And now working out how we supercharge that, because it's, we feel that our site and how our brand is represented is quite sort of authentic for how we are through our site, www.bexmedia.net blog. But if you look on that, it feels good. So it's now how we supercharge it, right? So we're going out to SEO, pay-per-click, and then other online marketing exercises. Just had someone in today doing some blog writing training, and aiming to kind of just supercharge that online presence now. And someone else that here is taking care of all the social side of things. But one thing which has been interesting recently with that is giving a compass to some of the members of staff here, because usually I'd be just, before I had people who are willing to take on those sorts of things, I'd be doing a bit of Twitter, I'd be doing a bit of Insta, and it would be, not well managed, because it was just me doing it. So I've passed some of those responsibilities on, which has been really helpful. But with that passing of responsibilities on, that compass from me to say, well, actually, what should we be delivering across these different marketing platforms that we're looking to engage with, and having a really clear, succinct executive summary, for want of a better term, of this is how we're going to go out to us guys, everyone guys, and having a concise thing. And then that will change. Yeah, of course it will. But right now, use this as your Bible and focus your comms, whatever the posts are, around that central. And then it just means that I kind of know that everyone's on the same page, but that communication came out of a frustration, rightly, from some of the people who didn't have that direction, and I've never needed to give that direction, but now I've done it because of the frustration. It wasn't my idea. I can now see, wow, what a benefit does that have? Because people know how to talk about these things. People know the subject areas that we should be talking about and communicating on to represent what we do authentically. Yeah. And that's been really great. It's really great.
Brilliant. Oh, that's fascinating. No, we really love to talk about that one in a bit more detail, but time is running away from us. So let's go to so let's talk about then the business of the future. So if we were to meet again in 5 years' time and we're sitting looking back over the last 5 years, what's going to have happened both professionally and personally for you to say that's a successful 5 years?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, I think what we want to focus on our stuff internally. I think there's plenty of stuff that we can gain and train up and invest in our people that we have, rather than going, okay, no, we want another 5 people in 5 years. It's not what my game plan is. It's perfectly fine to have that game plan. It's just not mine. If I was to give you a metric, I'd love to do a couple more TV ads over the next 5 years. We've done 1 or 2. But yeah, they're really involved and get the creative ideas. Be involved in more creative projects. We are doing that now. We've just come to the end of a couple of beautiful ones. But be involved in more creative projects. Yes, we have our uses in all sorts of areas. But when we get the whole team okay, that's a really good. The whole team working on projects together, because often you'll get little 1 or 2 person teams or dip in and out thing, but the whole team working together on things, adding their value to it and seeing the result. As far as business growth is concerned, I don't really want to put any numbers on things. We're doing okay, and if we keep on doing okay and keep on developing our value, and there's lots of, I think people get hung up on cash and growth a little bit too much. I know this is the Scale Up Growth podcast, and I should be saying, no, we want 10 more people and we want 100 more thousand. But I think one thing for me is making better stuff. If you are able to develop your offering and your value from whatever it is you do, and talk about it in the right way and get it under the noses of the right people, the scale and the cash will come. And it's that how much do I need to talk about it versus develop it? Yeah. And that constant seesaw, and really we're in development phase now.
I totally agree in terms of the results of Scale Up is based on what you actually put into it, not what you dream it to be. Yeah, but you need a direction of where you want to try and think about in terms of going. But Craig, what a fantastic conversation we've had. Talking about some really beautiful highlights for me. Yes. You're creative in terms of that, but this idea of creative communication by using video, 3D animation in terms of doing stuff for your clients and customers, by using ideas that you do in one industry and how that can apply to another industry, and that massive curiosity that you have brought to that whole process of that has been fascinating, and how you're taking that into your new team, finding the right people that I think have that curiosity to learn and grow and find that little bit of magic. The conversation about finding processes and thinking about how to do that. I love your expression that you're a magpie, not a manager, but we're honest to really talk about actually, but to grow a business, you need to develop those other skills that you did, and the honesty around, thinking about the fear factor that could hold you back, and how you've learned to deal with that and make that happen. And, you're building your muscle all the time. I think we're always building our muscle all the time over doing that. But your real focus on process and your people to really understand how to do that, and you distilling big business process thinking into a small little business in terms of doing that and being very successful in terms of that. And that final comment really for me, focusing on making better stuff, talking about it and getting in front of the right people, that will allow the business to grow and be successful. It's been a fantastic conversation. We always finish off with a quick fire round. So if I may, I'll try and keep us focused on this one, because otherwise we'll both go off on a tangent. There's so many great bits to talk about still. But anyway, question number one, if you go back to younger you, what advice would you give yourself?
Take more risks.
Excellent. Which books do you recommend?
Ooh. I'm not actually that well read. 2001: Space Odyssey, Asimov, anything by. I'm a little bit of a sci-fi geek.
Which podcast do you recommend?
Okay, Adam Buxton's podcast, long term. Richard Herring's podcast. I love comedy. I love comedy. Louis Theroux's just put out a new podcast on Spotify, which has been good. Who else? There was Science-ish. Oh my goodness, Science-ish is a brilliant podcast. Yes, look at Science-ish for me. I've re-listened to about 100 episodes of that 3 times.
Brilliant. Onto your phone now. What apps on your phone make the most difference for you?
I mean, video, Vimeo, YouTube, Monday.com, Monzo, that gets a fair amount of use. Let's have a look. Spotify, definitely. All of the drone apps, all of the camera apps. Xero, love Xero, let's be honest. A teleprompter app, who would have thought? And then everything around home automation. Yes, I have quite a bit of that as well. So my favorite question of all, who's had the most influence on you as a business leader? Dean Kamen. We went to him as part of the internship program. Dean Kamen he came up with the first coronary artery stent. And he spun that out and made a lot of money through that, but then got involved in sort of social entrepreneurship. And we were lucky enough to go to his facility. And the invention that he's probably best known, although sadly best known for, is the Segway. But that came out of a technology to do with wheelchairs and paraplegics and lifting paraplegic people up to eye level for conversation. And that for me was just amazing to see that sort of technology embraced and developed. And crazy good, but a good person with a good aim and an incredible nerd, I would put him as.
Yes, I know of him and some of his inventions. So brilliant. Well, and finally, Craig, how can people get hold of you?
Oh, just find us through the site. I gave it a shameless plug earlier on. But yeah, Bexmedia.net, just find us through there. We're across Insta as well, Bexmedia_video. Come and check out some of our stuff if you feel the need.
Brilliant. Well, Craig, Helen, thank you so much for this fantastic conversation today. But before I close, I'm an engineer. I am a mechanical engineer from background.
I'm the president of the Lord.
But I'm always in awe of product engineers, and so because the greatest one was at Apple, and Sir Johnny Ives, and what he's done for the world by being a product engineer, is just outstanding. So never underestimate what anybody can achieve and what you've done with your business. So thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you very much. It's been a great chat.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.